I haven't watched a Sydney Watson video in quite a while, but she made a video back in on the 5th of December about the insidious war on men, the destruction of masculinity. So let's just go ahead and watch it. This is going to be unbelievably dumb, but let's just fucking watch.
This topic is really just the gift that keeps on giving. Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to my channel. As per usual, this video would be nothing if it weren't for our loving sponsor, Surfshark. Now, masculinity is one of those topics that we hear about a lot. And most of the time, the conversation circulates its negative elements. How toxic it is, how it's a gateway drug to violence. I mean, there are full-blown groups of people who actually believe that masculinity in itself is synonymous with, like, violence and war. Blech. But if
Nice straw man, Sydney Watson. That's not what anybody of any, platform or significance actually believes. So, for starters, toxic masculinity. What is toxic masculinity? Well, unfortunately, it's a term that many people with poor reading comprehension have interpreted to be like a misandrous, anti-men word. But that's not what it refers to at all. In fact, it actually refers to the things that men have to deal with in society, particularly social expectations, that result in negative consequences for them. I bet you've heard about men's suicide rates, right? Have you seen how bad men's suicide and attempted suicide rates are? They're pretty fucking bad. Why is that, though? Why do men have such a big problem when it comes to suicide? Well, one of the biggest reasons is that there seems to be a social expectation for men to bottle up their feelings, not seek help, and not pursue any type of mental health counseling in order to improve themselves. They're expected to basically just be doomer, bottle up their feelings, have a cigarette, play video games, and just keep it to their fucking selves. That's what men are expected to do in society when they are upset about something, when they're depressed, and so on. And it's funny because we know what the problem with this is, but at the same time, people like this will endlessly talk about how bad men's suicide rates are while never actually getting to the root of the problem. Toxic masculinity doesn't mean masculinity is toxic. It's not toxic masculinity. It's toxic masculinity. There's a comma there, really, if we talk about how it's used. It refers to aspects of masculinity as it is viewed by society and by social expectations that have toxic outcomes. Like, for example, an emphasis on having to be very macho and having to bottle up your feelings, be stronger than other dudes, otherwise you have no value. Ideas like this, which are undoubtedly exist, right? Like, we're not going to argue that, society typically views men or expects men to be more violent, right? Or to bottle up their feelings and not talk about how they feel. All these things, right? Not talk about what's bothering them. To not cry. Listen, crying can be helpful, okay? Now, I never cry because I'm a big masculine man, of course, but crying can be helpful, okay? I remember this actually affected me pretty badly when my grandma died when I was 16, and it probably really fucked with me. My grandma was my best friend, literally my best friend. Loved her more than anything in the world, right? And in 2015, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, and she died in 2016. Ironically, well, I don't actually know exactly what day, but I found out on my birthday, really early call in the morning. On my birthday, I got from my uncle telling me my grandma had passed away. From the sound of it, it seemed like she died, late in the night going into my birthday. So she basically died on my birthday when I turned 17. Pretty shitty, pretty distressing. And I never once cried about it. I wanted to. I certainly wanted to, but I was at this point in my life, being 17 years old and being a dude, that I felt like crying, even alone, to myself in my room or whatever, would sort of make me less of a man. And I bottled that up, and I kept it to myself. And I shouldn't have. I probably should have cried. I probably should have let it out. I should have talked about it. I didn't talk about it with anybody, except, one person. I talked about it with one person. It was a friend of mine who was a girl, because I felt like maybe she wouldn't judge me as much for being open about my feelings. I would have never in my fucking life told a dude how I felt about it, how upset it made me. And this wasn't because of an internal thing. This is because of societal expectations that have sort of been implied to me as I grew up. And a lot of guys feel this way. And that's part of toxic masculinity. No one is saying that men are toxic inherently, or that being manly or masculine is toxic inherently, okay? No one's going to say that being a big buff lumberjack and cutting down trees in the wood is toxic masculinity. No one says that. However, being a douchebag who goes to the gym and like shoulder checks dudes as they're walking down like to their favorite weight set. No one's like, that's toxic masculinity, being like, sorry, bro, I was going to do the fucking I was gonna go deadlift over there, okay? I'm doing squats and shit, right? Like, like that's toxic masculinity. But just like going out in the woods, being a big buff hairy dude, cutting down trees, living off the land, that's not toxic. There's nothing toxically masculine about being a grug, unless you're a douchebag about it.
Some people really believe that masculinity is, in fact, this negative oppressive force in our men and boys. Then it makes sense that they'd want to neutralize it. And in the event that they can't do that, destroy it entirely. Which is what I want to talk about today. The destruction or death of masculinity and the feminization of men. But before we do any of that, let's hear about...
I'm curious what example she's going to give of deconstructing society's expectations or idea of masculinity, how that harms anybody, okay? The main thing that seems to be advocated for here by like the vast majority of progressive people is for anybody, even men, to feel the freedom to behave the way that what they want to do, you know? If a guy wants to wear a dress, then let's deconstruct this societal expectations. They feel free to do that if they want to do it. I'm not talking about trans people here. I'm talking about cis dudes. If a cis dude feels like they're more comfortable in a dress, they like it, why the fuck not? Like, what? It's not hurting anybody. It's not harming society. Also, the argument that, like, masculinity is punished in any way in society, like, no, obviously it's not, dude. Like, the vast majority of successful people are men who are... Hold on, let's talk about this, actually. Being tall, masculine, and assertive as a man is overwhelmingly rewarded in most fields, okay? Isn't it like, had to fix the blur there. Actually, I want to check right now. Height and success. I believe there was actually, there's tons of studies on this. Height and success. The findings suggest that someone who is 6 feet tall earns on average nearly $166,000 more during a 30-year career than someone who is 5 feet 5 inches, even when controlling for gender, age, and weight. The height salary link was found by a psychologist, Timothy A. So height is one thing that contributes a lot to the likelihood of you being successful, and generally height is considered like a more masculine trait, right? Generally, men are taller than women. This is overwhelmingly the statistic, right? At least here in America. I know in some other countries it might be different. As well as being assertive and getting like your point across, being aggressive and tenacious. These are all usually things associated with masculinity, and these are overwhelmingly rewarded in most fields. I don't think men are suffering due to these aspects, but they are suffering from toxic masculinity, and those are the things that we listed before.
At our sponsor, which you better watch because I try really hard with these ads. We're fighting the patriarchy today. Can't you two see I am mourning? Some of you might remember seeing a photo of singer Harry Styles in a dress on the cover of Vogue magazine. A similar photo was also posted by Men's Health, and well, that's a whole conversation on its own. Unsurprisingly,
if it's a whole... Okay, for one, no, it's not. There's nothing to talk about with that photo shoot whatsoever. There's literally nothing to get mad about. And if you get mad about it, you're a fucking snowflake. But for one, why did she put that in the thumbnail if she's apparently not going to get into that conversation? Hold on. Also, I want to point something out here really quick. So this is probably going to affect my, my search history kind of weirdly. So this is Harry Styles shirtless, not wearing a dress, in case you can't tell. This guy's pretty fucking masculine, I would say. I would argue this guy's pretty masculine. Do you really think him putting on a dress for a photo shoot is doing anything to harm masculinity whatsoever? He's not, like, particularly muscular. He's got, like, sort of a, dude bro thing going on, right? Like, this dude's pretty masculine, okay? I don't think I don't think society is being harmed in any way by him doing a photo shoot in a dress, all right? If anything, the people harming society are snowflakes like this getting mad about it.
Surprisingly, the photo went viral, especially after conservative commentator Candace Owens commented on it. She suggested that society cannot survive without strong men, that the steady feminization of men is not a coincidence, but rather an attack, saying that we need to bring back manly men.
The funny thing is, too, this tweet got shit on by everybody. Everybody, even apolitical people, were making fun of this tweet because of how ridiculous and fear-mongery it is. That's all these people do. I like, for real, okay? Nobody watches these figures, like these conservative right-wing figures, because they have any attachment to their personality whatsoever. They just want to hear their own presuppositions and their own opinions regurgitated back at them over and over and over and over again, okay? None of these people think for themselves whatsoever. I hope you guys think for yourselves, okay? I know you guys think for yourselves because you get fucking pissed off if I trip up on a single word and like you think I disagree with you on something. You guys get really mad in chat. So I know you guys think for yourselves for the most part, but these conservative types, they don't. But it was really funny seeing like everybody, apolitical and otherwise, shitting on this tweet.
Now, of course, this sentiment was not shared universally, with many people on the other side of things arguing that dresses don't mark femininity, that men can wear whatever they like, and people shouldn't worry themselves with the things that don't affect them. Ironic, considering how radical leftists just love telling everybody else what to do.
This is actually really funny because this is the true opinion, by the way, that you shouldn't be bothered by stuff that doesn't affect you in any way. But the funny thing is, actually, this is how these people build their entire careers, right? Ever since around 2014, these people have built their careers sort of building a straw man of what the left is. So whenever there's an undeniable example of the left not being what that straw man is, they can try to claim hypocrisy. What is it that Vosh says about this? No arguments, just gesturing at hypocrisy or whatever, like, right? What is it, like, they don't have any arguments, they just vaguely gesture at imagined hypocrisy. That's what Vosh says, and it's really is true. She has no arguments for how left-leaning people are wrong here. It's literally just, oh, well, this doesn't fit the straw man that we built to the left ever since 2014.
Have you guys met you? Seriously. A short time later, Styles posted yet another photo wearing whatever the hell this is, with the caption, "Bring back manly men." Now, if you're anything like me, then you patently don't care.
So this demonstrates how she doesn't understand her history. Look at this outfit. Where's the outfit? Come on. Give it to me. Fuck me!
Seriously. A short time later, Styles posted yet another photo wearing...
Do you know what this outfit is? This is supposed to be reminiscent of, like, 1700s men's attire. You know that, right? That's what this is supposed to be? With, like, the frills, the suit, the button-up, the pants. Like, this is supposed to... It's actually more masculine than, like, old attire from, like, the 1700s. Like, have you ever seen, like, how royalty and the most masculine, God-ordained men of old European culture looked? They dressed like this. This is how they dressed. Especially, like, with the little bit coming around the hand there, around the wrist, and, like, around the waist there. Especially with this, and, like, the button-up and the suit and everything. Also, he's eating a banana. What are you, fucking gay? Eating a banana? What are you... It's phallic. I'm sorry, but eating bananas or hot dogs or anything, even any food that's somewhat phallic-looking, makes you gay. I don't make the rules. Just how it is, okay?
Whatever the hell this is, with the caption, "Bring back manly men." Now, if you're anything like me, then you patently don't care about...
What the fuck is this sign in the background, by the way? Brown Eye Devil Club? What the fuck does that reference? I feel like that's some kind of dog whistle. I don't know. I know nothing about this lady, so I'm not gonna speculate on it, but it's kind of weird.
Harry Styles or literally any other celebrity and what they choose to wear. Seriously, until these people pay my taxes, I'm genuinely not interested in what they do. But if nothing else, this topic...
But Sydney Watson, isn't that
socialism?
Wait, why is she talking about rich people and celebrities paying her taxes now? Isn't she, like, against communism and socialism? Is she like a Nazgul or something? Is she like a an economically left-wing but socially right-wing? Is that her deal? Or does she just like particularly hate celebrities in this case? Like she wants left-wing celebrities to pay her taxes? Also, I'm pretty sure she makes quite a bit of money. Hold on, I want to see something really quick. 500,000 subs. Yeah, she gets quite a few views. Let's check her social blade. How much money is this lady making? Now, social blade isn't always that accurate. It says she's making around 5.6K a month. Based on my social blade and how accurate it is, I would say she's probably making around 5K a month off of her YouTube channel, even if she's getting everything demonetized. Like, trust me, I know all my content gets demonetized. I'm making around 2K a month off of YouTube ad revenue. It's not too bad. It's enough to pay my rent and then a little extra left to the side. So I'm guessing she's probably making, based on like what I know about my income and how accurate Social Blade is, probably about 60K a year from her YouTube ad revenue alone. Let's see, does she have a Patreon? Well, she's getting sponsors too. She's got a Surfshark sponsor, Patreon. What's her Patreon look like? 746 a month, not bad. Definitely not like as much as you would expect, but definitely not bad. Slug? What the fuck is Slug? Parlor? That's not surprising. Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, she's making a pretty good amount of money. I'm not going to, she's definitely not like in the top 1% or anything, but she's definitely making enough money that she should probably be forking over taxes, okay? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but under Bernie's tax plan, by the way, middle-class people would also have to pay more taxes in order to pay for Medicare for all. It's literally just necessary in terms of how you would pay for it. You can't just tax the 1% more and be able to pay for it. You do have to tax the middle class more. Poor people, like lower class people, not as much, but like the middle class would have to get taxed more in order to pay for Bernie's Medicare for all plan. So, just thought I'd point that out as well.
Has actually raised some valid concerns about the state of men in 2020 and the overall feminization of traditional masculinity. Depending on who you ask, the feminization of men is either harmful, weakening our society, or suppressing innate biological tendencies, or it's successful.
How? Also, what biological tendency makes men want to wear suits, jeans, and t-shirts? What biological tendency is that? Where is that in my DNA? Is that, you do realize that humans evolved wearing nothing, right? Like originally, they basically wore nothing, and then they all wore like leather and like hide and furs, and then eventually started wearing like frilly, basically dresses through a lot of history, and like current men's attire is actually really, really new in the long run of human history. You understand that's like how humans have evolved, right? Unless you believe the Earth is 7,000 years old and God made humans just as they are now, and that humans have only been around for like 700 years or some shit, which I wouldn't be surprised. This lady seems like the type that would believe that.
Uncovering and rooting out toxic traits in men and manhood. It's either a significant negative problem or a welcome byproduct of blurring gender roles and stereotypes, such in the case of Harry Styles. Or Gucci's attempt at releasing a tartan dress with a satin bow for men in the hopes of disrupting the toxic stereotypes that mold masculine gender identity. Well, they're certainly disrupting something.
How is this bad? Can you give me a single argument for how this is bad? I've yet to hear one. Hold on, say it with me, chat. Who? You know the second word. Say it with me, chat. Who cares? Who cares? Who gives a fuck about this? Who in their right mind gives a fuck about this? How is this harming anybody? How is this harming society? How is this hurting anyone? Xander Hall, did you know high heels came from the Persians and were used in combat, later brought to Europeans as a mark of wealth and royalty? Not surprising. Most things modern society we associate with femininity used to be masculine. Did you know that back in like the 20s, blue and pink were completely mixed, right? You know, blue was a girl's color and pink was a boy's color back in like the 1920s, right? And due to marketing and the way this, like, we started like selling toys and whatnot, they like it kind of switched around. You know, that was a thing, right? If you actually go back and look at most attire that's mostly associated with masculinity now, or femininity now, used to be associated with masculinity like 100 years ago or so, or even further back, right? You do realize that was a thing, right? Literally just basic history.
This is the face of, apparently you can pay me enough to wear this. But there really are people out there who believe that it is necessary to wear skirts and heels in order to challenge gender norms. And this is just one cosmetic example of the push to change these traits in men. So when we talk about this, it entirely depends.
I'd like to point out that we are almost 5 minutes into a 25-minute video and we've yet to hear an argument.
Depends upon which side of the fence you stand. Do you want a society where the lines of gender are blurred, where there is no clear distinction between men and women, socially, emotionally, developmentally, and externally?
Yeah, sounds fine to me. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. Yeah, who cares? Makes them happy if that's how they want society to be. Why not? Is this lady, does she claim to be a libertarian? Does she claim, hold on, chat, I need you to tell me right now. Yes or no, does she claim to be a libertarian? She does? I don't know. Chat, I need to know. Does she claim... No one knows? No one knows if she claims to be a libertarian? Hold on, I'll check. I'll Google it right now. We'll see. Okay, no. She claims she's a conservative, it seems like. Okay. All right. She doesn't claim to be a libertarian. One of my favorite things is whenever I watch like a conservative content creator that claims to be a libertarian, but they get mad about shit like this. So she's got me there. She's not a libertarian. She is an authoritarian conservative. So that's fine.
Or do you want a society where men and women have clearly defined roles, determined by their innate immutable characteristics as two separate sexes?
Well, that was about the most anti-science thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Yeah, so for one, there aren't two sexes. It's the overwhelming scientific consensus that sex is a bimodal distribution, not a binary. There are not two separate sexes. Two, even if there were, what is it about these clothes that associate with biology? You know, like, holy shit, dude. Wearing jeans as a dude fucking sucks. I'm not gonna lie. If I could get away with wearing some kind of tunic or a dress or some shit, and it was like societally acceptable, I'd probably do it because it's more comfortable. Even wearing these comfy basketball shorts, my dick and balls, my dick and balls are like constantly being crushed by the lack of space that they are given. Okay, imagine just being able to wear a dress as a dude and just let it fucking dangle, you know, and not have to worry about it. Okay, not having to worry about your dick and balls being like fucking like that shit sucks being a dude. Like, I fucking hate it. There's nothing about male biology that would tell you that your dick and balls should be crunched into a small little fucking pocket, basically, in your clothing. There's nothing about male biology that says that. If anything, something like jeans would be marketed more towards women because you can like tighten that shit around there and it's not quite as uncomfortable because they don't have any fucking... These people use the same argument about manspreading. Wait, they use the same argument about manspreading. You do realize that if dudes wore dresses, then they could just take their dick and balls and just sort of like push them up and they could sit on top of their legs and they could actually sit comfortably with their legs closed tight. These same people, whenever they would hear about manspreading, would say, well, guys have dick and balls. They gotta spread their legs out so they can be comfortable. They use the same argument. Okay, then why not let dudes be societally accepted wearing dresses so they don't have to do that? Although honestly, if I wore a dress in public or something, then I would be manspreading even more, just to, you know, let it all hang out and air out and whatnot, let everyone see what's going on. But like, they use the same argument. There is literally nothing biologically that would say suits and jeans are like more fitting for male biology. There's literally nothing there. There's no biological association.
And of course, with a little added nuance to suit the date and time period. Well, I certainly know where I stand. It's the second option, in case that wasn't clear, because I don't want this. No, thank you. I'll be fine. The feminized...
That's fine. Let people dress how they want to do, how they want to dress. Do what they want to do. If you want to date a dude or be friends with a dude, then be friends with or date dudes that decide they want to dress in a more traditionally masculine manner. That's fine. Doesn't affect you in any way.
The sexualization of men, at least in my opinion, has been in progress for several decades. If it helps, think about it as like He-Man versus like this. In 1976, a sociologist called
What? Does she actually think that like dudes wearing dresses is like a very prominent thing? Here, I know this isn't data because there's really no data on something as stupid as this, but like, let's Google man and see what comes up. I see. We go down 3 rows before we find the first feminine-ish man. Buff, muscular, manly, 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 manly. Pretty damn manly. Here's a woman for some reason. It's an article, Why Life Expectancy is Longer for Women than Men, so I guess, pretty manly. Why men are getting perms. Manly, manly, manly. Here's finally we have the Harry Styles thing. And they even cut off where the dress starts. Manly, pretty, like, I don't think we have an overwhelming tendency for men to be viewed or depicted in society as like wearing dresses or being feminine. That just doesn't seem like it's something that's happening on even a minute scale. Like this is such a wedge thing. Like this is not like a huge thing that's going on whatsoever.
Robert Bannon wrote a book called The 49% Majority, where he detailed the blueprint of manhood, describing core tenets of masculinity at the time. These included things like not showing weakness or acting feminine, striving for financial success and social status, projecting an aura of confidence and self-reliance, being the strong silent type, and striving to be tough, adventurous, and live life on the edge. By 2020 standards...
Wait, does she not realize that sociologist paper or the book was literally criticizing these things? Hold on. Hypers, if you've seen Breaking Bad, the TV show Breaking Bad, Walter White, Heisenberg, bald head, cooks the meth. Ironically, Breaking Bad is actually a pretty good, narrative about toxic masculinity. You guys know that? Has anyone else here noticed that? Toxic masculinity and how bad it is unironically like a pivotal plot point to Breaking Bad. Well, I'll run you through it. I'll run you through it right now. Walter White wants to be a manly man, wants to provide for his family, finds out he has cancer, decides to keep it to himself because he's afraid of how it'll affect his family. He doesn't want to seem weak. He's constantly demasculinized by Hank. Like, oh yeah, he's in the first episode when he's given the gun and he's like, he's holding it. He's like, oh, it's heavy. And his brother-in-law is like, that's why we have men use them. And, he feels like kind of shitty about that. How he feels like even when he's offered money from his like billionaire friend, he feels the need to like provide for his family and not take the money because he feels like it'll hurt his pride. I'm guilty of the same kind of thing. I won't lie. But regardless, throughout the entire show, the entire plot of the show only happens because Walt was subject to the toxic masculine expectations of society and felt like no matter what the cost was, even up to literally putting the lives of children in danger and getting children killed, that he needed to provide money for his family and take care of his family on his own, be masculine, be a manly man, no matter what the cost was. And it resulted in Hank dying, spoiler alert, children dying, and one getting really sick, causing his partner and arguably best friend, I would say, being captured by Nazis and tortured for like 6 months. Like, the show is literally about toxic masculinity and how it ruined Walt's life. And at the end of the show, he dies because of it. He died because of it at the end. I would argue Breaking Bad is actually one of the best narratives about how bad and harmful toxic masculinity can be out there, unironically. I'm not even kidding. It actually is.
It's very clear that many of these traits would simply not be valued in the same way that they used to be. Nowadays, several of these things would be considered toxic masculinity, especially anything and everything relating to suppressing emotion or not wanting to act feminine.
Do I need to bring up men's suicide statistics? So, yeah. Whew. Men in every single study are overwhelming. Ironically, it's like white men too. It's white men that are the most likely to attempt or commit suicide. Suicide is a major national health problem in the United States. The country has the highest suicide rates among wealthy nations. In 2018, there were... let's see, I want to find the specific one about... Here, let's see. The age-adjusted suicide rate... In 2018, men died by suicide 3.56 times more often than women. White men accounted for almost 70% of suicide deaths in 2018. Fucking wild when you consider there are more women than there are men. Despite only being like, what, 48, 49% of the population, white men make up 70% of suicides. That is fucking nuts. Are you actually going to argue to me right now that men wearing dresses for photo shoots and toxic masculinity being deconstructed by a few people in society is more harmful than whatever's going on that's making men commit suicide so much, which is, and sociologists agree on this, them feeling the need not to come out, talk about their feelings, pursue mental health counseling if they're having issues with their feelings, whatnot. Like, do you really think? Also, a big issue with it as well is men going through financial ruin or whatever. Like, if a man's going in a really bad financial situation, that's what makes them the most likely to kill themselves because, well, for one, capitalist hellscape, we all know that, but also society expects men to make money and provide for their families. If they can't do it, they feel like they have no value because this is like the expectation society has instilled in them since a young age. And now, and it's borne out in the statistics. Men are hurt by this overwhelmingly.
Which, I guess leftists want men to do for some reason. I just want you to cut me down a tree and build me a house.
Ah, yes. I wonder why men want, or why leftists want men to pursue mental health counseling. It's probably not because they're dying in droves due to suicide. Ah, yes. And of course she wants you to cut down a tree and make her a house. Jesus fucking Christ. You can't make this shit up, people.
This isn't hard. Some research actually confirms this, telling us that young men themselves value intellectual strength over physical strength. They value openness and altruism more than they value autonomy. Although, if you ask me, I'd argue that men have always valued altruism. Just ask the men on the Titanic as they gurgled to the bottom of the ocean. One article
You realize the men on the Titanic were literally not allowed to get onto the lifeboats, right? This is also part of like society's toxically masculine idea that men are less valuable than the women and the children on the ship, right? Obviously, you get the children out of there first, but like they literally prioritize men or women and children over the men. They literally were like, nope, you're not allowed on, and you would be wrestled away if you tried to get onto the lifeboats. You know that's what happened, right? Is she actually trying to bring up the example of men dying on the Titanic as an example of men's position in society not being harmful to them? They didn't say, no. I guarantee most of them didn't say, no. Let the women and children go first. I will die here on the Titanic. I will sink to the bottom of the frigid, cold ice waters of the North Atlantic, and I will die here. I will do it proudly as long as the women and children get to make it out. Fuck no! They were like, I want to get on, and they were like, nope, women and children first. when they try to get onto the fucking lifeboats. What are you fucking talking about? I guess if you're a conservative commentator, you just get to lie to your audience and make shit tons of money off of it. You don't ever have to do any research. So I understand.
I read suggested that this change to masculinity isn't necessarily
Also, I'm going to speed up the video because this is actually really, really slow.
a bad thing. It doesn't signal the death of the cowboy, but rather the death of the gunslinger. The cowboy just got more sophisticated to fit in with our shifting world of office jobs and nerds. This idea might even help explain the decline in physical dominance in men, such as dropping testosterone levels and overall physical strength, which has been documented in a few studies relating to endurance and grip strength. One study, for example, basically concluded that the average college male—
You know what's funny? Bringing up the cowboy thing or the gunslinger thing, it's actually kind of funny. One of my favorite things about Red Dead Redemption 2, one of my favorite games, honestly, cowboy game, it's out in the Wild West, is depending on the choices that you make, like when you choose like your dialogue options with most people, even in cutscenes that you don't get to decide, Arthur Morgan is a nice dude. Arthur Morgan's masculine as fuck, all right? He's extremely masculine, but he's also a pretty nice dude. Here, I want to show a clip from the game right here. This is actually a optional dialogue. Arthur Morgan's opinion on women. Maybe this is just SJW game developers that did this, but I think this is a pretty telling thing. This is what I like masculinity to be like, okay?
What you reading?
Oh, some silly book. I swear I could do better in my sleep.
Then why don't you?
Because she was born poor.
She was born poor, but maybe she won't die poor.
We're all gonna die poor. Maybe we can have some fun in the meantime.
I disagree. I ain't gonna die poor. I know that.
Well, good luck to you, Missy.
What do you think about women, Mr. Arthur?
I don't think there's much difference between women and men. Most of both are awful. But there's a few worth loving and dying for, I guess. If they'll let you.
I knew you was a romantic, Mr. Morgan. I just knew it.
Yeah. Based king, Arthur Morgan. One of the best characters in media, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my point, though, right? Like, even in something, I would argue that, like, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a pretty damn representative example of, like, the cowboy. And even there, they have, like, the most masculine dude of, like, the fucking Wild West. And that's his opinion on, like, the difference between men and women, right? More progressive in 1890... or 1899, I think, is when the game takes place, than this lady in 2020.
has no more hand strength than a 30-year-old mum. In saying that, we know there's at least one thing you guys are good at gripping. My hand. When you take me on a nice date. Get your heads out of the gutter. Now, I'm not saying for a second that men have to abide by and fit into this 1970s version of masculinity, but society overall appears much more comfortable with the softer emotional man than the cut me down a tree and build me a fortress kind of man. The problem arises when men do actually have these traditional characteristics. They are increasingly unable to express them or act them out, lest they be labeled toxic or fragile and—
Are we actually going to argue that toxically masculine dudes are oppressed in society? Are we actually arguing that right now? How divorced from reality do you have to be like a right-wing political commentator? It's so fucking wild. It's so fucking wild.
Cast to the back of the proverbial gender bus. In early 2019, the American Psychological Association issued its first ever guidelines for practice with men and boys. Its primary message claimed that traditional masculinity, such as stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression, is, on the whole, harmful. And honestly, these characteristics are now genuinely viewed as toxic masculinity across the board. And this is viewed as the path to violence and sexual harassment, and traditional masculinity is the gateway to get there. With this intense scrutiny on men all the time, even for innocuous behavior—
Why would she list a, backed up, peer-reviewed study by sociologists that disagrees with her and then did she just try to use that as like an argument in favor of her position? I really do. I feel bad. I really do feel bad for right-wing conservative commentators because they just don't have any academic like studies or anything to back up any of their opinions. They can't prove that race realism is true. They can't prove that like toxic masculinity is a good thing. They can't prove that like society is harmed by illegal immigration or that the economy is harmed by it. Every single academic and the overwhelming consensus disagrees with every single thing that they say. They have no studies that they can cite besides like PragerU-esque graphs that are not cited in any way. They just kind of made up. Like, what was that one that I saw the other day? As socialism goes down, human autonomy goes up, and it's just a graph that's not even labeled, with just a red line for communism going down and a blue line for bodily autonomy going up. That is all these people have. Like made up non-existent graphs because there's no scientific or academic consensus that backs up any of their opinions. I really feel bad for them.
It's really no wonder that men would want to separate and distance themselves from traditional manhood. The feminist movement has, without question, had an enormous hand in this. Over the last several decades, the purpose of women has been expanded dramatically. Rather than raising children predominantly, women can effectively do anything a man can do, except create sperm, but I'm sure that science is working on that one.
Well, they already can. Women can create sperm. I know a few women that can create sperm. Trans women. Hypers, if you're a woman in chat and you can create sperm. Anyone here? Any trans girls in chat that can create some fucking thick, frothy sperm? Hell yeah. Fellow sperm creators in chat. And they're women. Just a nice frothy load. So, yes, I like to use the adjective frothy when I talk about sperm. I don't even know the point that I was about to make. I don't even fucking know. I got caught up on the frothy sperm part there.
Feminism even the playing field in almost all areas. Women can have sex like men, earn money like men, dress like men, and despite what feminist literature
I remember what I was going to say. So back during the World Wars in America, there was this big problem where all the dudes were drafted and shipped off to war and nothing was getting done in America. We needed, like, shit still had to get done in America, but all the men were off overseas fighting in the war, right, to protect their country. So then women started to have to, pick up the pace and start working jobs. That's how that happened. That's where that comes from. Because all the men were shipped off to war and women had to pick up the slack. And that's when society started to realize, okay, maybe women can work just as well as men. And that's how that happened. Because American society and infrastructure and economy would have fucking collapsed during World War I and World War II if the women weren't back at home working the jobs that men couldn't do because they were out overseas fighting in a war, getting fucking PTSD and getting their arms and legs blown off on the battlefield. That's how that happened. Learn your fucking history.
might tell you about equality, women have never been more equal. The problem is that nobody has really attempted to expand the purpose of men and uplift them in the same way. And why would they? What allegedly started off as a movement for equality, which it isn't, instead has become
citation fucking needed.
Laser focused on the patriarchy and eliminating inherent flaws in our male-orientated society and its effect on women. Even the push to break down traits of traditional masculinity, such as independence, dominance, and suppression of emotion, has never really been about helping men themselves, but rather helping men help women.
Citation fucking needed. Holy fuck. Imagine if I could just do this. Imagine if I could just spout bullshit with no citation, nothing to back up any of my opinions, and just say this, right? Just say this opinion and get away with it. A fucking imagine, dude. My job would be so much easier.
Aptly demonstrated by the UN and its tweet on International Men's Day this year. Just stop that. Even when people do point to ameliorating significant issues with men, such as the prevalence of male suicide rates, homelessness, divorce, loneliness, and so on, it's
watch her try to say that, oh, but whenever feminists and progressives do talk about the things we claim they don't talk about, then it's because they just want to help themselves.
It's framed not as, hey, let's build up men, but rather, let's eliminate their harmful behavior. What's even more...
Nope, and I've said this in the stream, eliminate the societal expectations that are hurting them. That is literally the entire argument. Bottom to top, we're just trying to eliminate societal expectations and ideas and beliefs that harm them, that cause them to do these things. The things that make it, for example, the belief that women are better caretakers than men, which I know for a fact Sydney Watson here props up. This is why the family court situation is so bad. Why women usually end up getting the better end of the stick in family court disputes when it comes to like ownership or bearish. I don't know what the word is. What's the word? What's the word that I'm looking for? Why can't I remember? Child ownership? I don't know. Bearership, I guess. I don't fucking know. Custody. Yes, child custody. Like expecting that women will do a better job, even if the woman is like clearly an abusive piece of shit, right? These are all problems that we see. The male suicide rates, all these things. These are problems that we're trying to acknowledge. But I guess if you pretend like men don't, or like leftists or feminists don't talk about this, then when they do, you can pretend like they don't actually care about it because you're a conservative and you don't have an honest bone in your body.
More interesting is that the same masculine traits society seems to want to eliminate in men seem to be the same ones we celebrate in women. That sense of drive, purposefulness, aggression, and leadership, just to name a few examples. So I guess here we are, where the lines between the sexes are blurred, the roles are unclear, and while some people celebrate these things as positive steps towards equality and progressivism, it's clear that many men simply don't know where they fit in anymore, or how they should behave in a world that has practically replaced them with, like, vibrators and turkey basters and... Stop being graphic. I do...
Men aren't being replaced with vibrators and turkey basters, I assure you. However, I will say, even if you're in a relationship with a woman, or a vagina haver, or even a dude, honestly, or a penis-having girl, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with using sex toys while having sex. It just enhances the experience, right? There's no problem with it. I tell you, it's super pog if you have like one of those little vibrator things and you're fucking a girl and you use that along with your dick, because unfortunately, until we get to that point, until you get to the point where you can put little fucking jumping beans in your ball sack that make your dick vibrate, your dick can't vibrate. It can't do that. You can have the biggest dick in the world, girthy and long and everything. It'll never be able to vibrate. You can't do that. So, you know, cock ring? You could get like a vibrating cock ring maybe, but yet, okay? Cyberpunk's gonna happen. You'll be able to get a vibrating dick one day. I'll make sure mine can. Okay, dude. One day we'll achieve that in society. But no, it's actually pretty fucking pog to use it like a sex toy when you're having sex with like somebody, I guess. But in my case, like a girl, right? It's actually just enhances the experience. Also, the cool part is your dick gets vibrated as well. It's true. It's true. It is true. Vibrators make me feel numb, but I would recommend everyone try them. Just don't put a vibrator in your ass. It can cause issues. Put the vibrator as far up your ass as you possibly can, chat. Okay? All right. Okay. I think we heard this lady's arguments. This video is another 14 minutes of this bullshit, okay? And she's just gonna keep on saying shit without citing a single source and repeating the same argument over and over and over and over and over again. So the lesson of this video is one, don't be a dumb fuck who listens to somebody like this, all right? That's the first argument. Also, I'm going to go turn down my AC in a second. That's the first argument. Second thing you want to learn from this video is don't be afraid to use sex toys when you're having sex. It just makes it more fun. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, make sure to leave a like. I really do appreciate it if you enjoy the video and whatnot. If you're new, make sure to sub and ring the bell icon, trying to hit 60,000 subs by the end of the year. So I'll say it in a second, Ethan. I'm trying to hit 60,000 subs by the end of the year. So I'd really appreciate it if you just drop that fucking subscribe-a-rooney. On top of that, you can follow me on Twitter through the link in the description, as well as joining the fan Discord. It's an awesome community. You should definitely join it. And on top of that, if you got any money sitting around, you don't need it for anything else. And of course, you need to, you want to support me or something, you can always either become a member on the channel by hitting the join button under the video, or even subbing to my Patreon, or even coming to the website, xanderhall.com/live, and subbing or donating here. It's always appreciated. And once again, thank you for watching my video, and have a good one.